SkinVision is more than just another tech startup. It is a scalable software solution with real potential to save lives. With the mission of increasing the awareness of the importance of early detection of skin cancer, it has empowered its users to take their skin health into their own hands in one of the most important markets in the entire world. Currently in New Zealand, skin cancer is the fourth most common form of cancer. However, less than 4% of New Zealand Kiwis actually get annual checkups for skin health. To compound the issue, it's currently operating in an unsustainable public healthcare system where there's increased pressure because of an aging population, and there's a shift in focus for more preventative, innovative solutions to solve today's biggest health problems. And with that, I'd like to introduce you to my team. My name is Mike Carragher, and I'm joined here by my team, Chris, Craig, and Sarah. And we are very excited to present to you recommendations that we believe will not only help SkinVision scale its platform, but also scale its cause of increasing awareness of early detection. And with that, I'd like to walk you through our three-pronged approach. First, by growing organically, by leveraging network effects, we believe that we can not only grow the scale of our platform and our user base, but also use strategic channels in order to target people that wouldn't already be targeted previously. Next, by partnering strategically with the New Zealand government, healthcare providers, and insurance providers, we believe we can really hit strategic channels that are not only going to increase our reach, but also help us scale to new places in the future. And lastly, by serving globally, we know it's not enough to not only serve those who can access our mobile platform, but to serve the underserved. Those who need it most, that cannot access this app, but can use help in detecting early melanoma and advanced stage melanoma. Because the difference between early stage and advanced can be over $200,000 in treatment. And with that, I'd like to pass it off to our team to talk about growing organically.
Thanks, Mike. Now, as Mike mentioned, SkinVision is well positioned to achieve large-scale impact in the New Zealand market. We've identified the young to middle-aged woman as the perfect and most powerful advocate and influencer for this platform. She is already concerned about skincare protection. As you can see, she is slipped, slopped, slapped, and wrapped up there and ready for the beach, and is concerned about the health of her family and friends. So we recommend targeting her first through a series of digital marketing campaigns, accessing her through social media platforms where she is already researching and interacting with her friends, as well as targeting her in-store near adjacent products that she'll be seeing, such as suntan lotions and giant hats to protect her from the sun, partnering with those different companies in order to get the word out about this incredible product. Now, as you can see, she has a pretty significant network of people to influence. And I know that as a young adult who lives many miles away from my mom, she's still the first one I call whenever I have any concern about my health. So she's the most powerful advocate for this product to young adults, as well as to her husband, or the middle-aged male category, which is the demographic that can benefit most from this product given percentages of diagnoses. But since there are pretty significant barriers to adoption in that category, we truly believe that the young to middle-aged woman is the most powerful influencer for young adults, for the middle-aged men category, as well as for her friends. So we recommend adding a profile feature to SkinVision that allows her to not only manage her own profile, but that of her children and her husband as well. Finally, we recommend adding a share feature that will enable her to quickly tell her friends and family about the app and how it can impact her life and their lives as well. With these recommendations, we believe that she can achieve over 500 downloads in New Zealand alone by the end of year 5. Now, we know that getting downloads isn't sufficient to getting the most impact and the most value out of this app for its users. So we recommend a series of notifications that will encourage users to continue engaging with the platform over their life cycle. The first of these encourage users to continually upload photos after they've uploaded one and then maybe have kind of forgotten that they were concerned about an area of their skin, as well as encouraging them to really go make that appointment and go to the doctor's appointment that could save their lives. And then finally, for those who may download the app and then have to delete it due to space issues, we recommend including an email feature that will allow Skin Vision to continually communicate prevention methods with its users after they may have deleted the app, and encourage them to re-download it and use it for their skincare prevention. So now that we talked about some organic growth methods, I'd like to pass it off to Craig to talk to you about some more large-scale strategic partnerships.
Thanks, Sarah. So like Mike talked about, early detection is key in this game. It means $200,000 difference detecting early versus detecting late. It could have saved my aunt's life 10 years ago. So one of the things that we have to realize, though, is when we're talking about detection, we also have to be talking about the other side of the equation, which is treatment. And specifically in New Zealand with treatment, general practitioners are currently performing 80% of the dermatological procedures in the country. But unfortunately, they have a fairly low accuracy rating in their ability to correctly identify skin cancer. I'm talking 50 to 70% typically, whereas Skin Vision, the app's algorithm, actually has an 88% accuracy rating. So this piece of technology is better than people who are specializing across a wide array of fields. Now, what that means is that we want to take the success that Skin Vision has had with the nursing organization in New Zealand and apply that to the general practitioners. So the Skin Academy Pro, which nurses have free access to, we'd like general practitioners to also have access to these types of educational tools. And at least for a limited time, probably 30 days, we'd like general practitioners to have access to the Skin Vision app platform, being able to test out on different patients the app's capabilities and technologies, and hopefully they actually improve their own ability to deliver care through this platform. And now if we talk about public health providers, specifically the government has a public health interest in keeping its citizens healthy, obviously, but also because in New Zealand the government pays quite a big percentage of the GDP in healthcare costs. It has an interest in keeping costs down. So by correctly identifying this type of skin cancer and melanoma early, the government has quite a bit of cost savings that they can accomplish. And by partnering with the New Zealand government and with these types of public health providers, there's significant monetary benefit to Skin Vision as well. And talking about insurance companies also stand to benefit from this for basically the same reason that the government has to benefit. But Akiro has been one case in New Zealand that already has success. And we'd like to see more cases like Akiro in New Zealand where Skin Vision is partnering with these types of insurance companies and being compensated for correctly identifying these types of skin lesions early and hopefully diagnosing and saving lives. With that, I'll pass it off to Chris to talk to you about our implementation strategy.
Thanks, Craig. So we talked a little bit about how we're going to target the people and the organizations that we're going to partner with, mainly for growing this platform and reaching a larger user base. But now we want to talk about how we're going to reach a different population, and that's the underserved. So those people who may live in rural areas outside of the city, don't have access to a cell phone, like 43% of rural New Zealand doesn't have access to the internet, because these underserved populations need this sort of care as well. And with the lean platform that Skin Vision provides, by partnering with organizations such as the New Zealand Cancer Society and hosting free clinics in rural areas, we can really make an impact in this underserved population. So now I'd like to talk a little bit about the implementation plan. So we recognize that Skin Vision as a startup and a small company has limited resources. So we've come up with a plan to stagger the implementation of these strategies, starting out with immediately contacting the government and working on app development, and then prolonging the entrance into the United States market. That was one of the goals laid out for us by your company until a later date based on limited resources, political uncertainty, and the need for government approval. So now if we look at the financial impact of these recommendations, you see that over the course of the next 5 years, through growing the user base on the platform, Skin Vision could reach $106 million in total revenue by the end of 2021, which ultimately, based on these efficient strategies we've put forth, leads to $61 million in net profit. So we've identified a few risks and mitigation strategies centered around growth and allocation. But what we really want to talk about before we get to the Q&A is the impact of this service. So Skin Vision has a unique opportunity because of the clientele that it serves, which is these cancer patients. Cancer affects an entire family, an entire community. It's affected my family severely. I know that when my grandmother was diagnosed with cancer, breast cancer, I wore pink basketball shoes during the sports season, and now when I go home today to my local community, the entire team is wearing pink shoes. At this point, we'll open for any questions.
Me to kick off?
You go ahead.
Okay. You mentioned the public health system is stressed financially, big chunk of GDP and stuff. And public can also get involved in politics. You know, I mean, if they do something unpopular, there's going to be blowback. And so a chunk of skin cancer is not melanoma. Did you think about if there's a lot more detection of melanoma, is the public system going to fund surgery for non-melanoma skin cancer? Because the public might say, oh, something's wrong with me, but it's not melanoma. Oh, that's good. Well, great. Are you, public system fund cosmetic surgery to take that. Did you think about that? If the answer's no, that's fine.
Well, no, we didn't think about cosmetic procedures, no.
You know, the basal cell carcinoma
Sure.
is, I think this case said that's mostly the skin cancers you find. It's, thankfully, it's not melanoma.
Right.
So if there's a lot more detection, that's going to come up, right?
Yeah.
And so the government will need to have a position, the government health system will need to have a position on whether they fund that.
Yeah.
And if they choose not to, right, they're going to want to have a
Right.
communication with the public on why. That's,
Yeah, I think the case there would be, we wouldn't encourage the government to fund those types of benign procedures.
Okay.
We would want to focus primarily on the malignant procedures that actually pose a public health threat.
Can you just explain to me, in the partner one, and this is under the government again, the current process is appointment with GP, then referral to dermatologist and diagnosis, where the new proposal is direct referral to the dermatologist for high-risk users. So I'm confused how you get straight from assess risk to the dermatologist.
Yeah, so I can speak to that a little bit. The reason that we wanted to introduce this platform and work with the government to be able to get that referral right away without having to go through a general practice or a general practice with special interest is because based on the effectiveness of the app, which currently is diagnosing accurately 85% of cases, and with the network effects that will only get greater in the future, if a customer has a high risk profile based on their family history, their geography, and those other profile background reasons, as well as a high risk skin lesion, we feel that based on the combination of those two high-risk scenarios and the effectiveness of an app, that's enough to go ahead and bypass the general practice process, which saves time and saves the publicly funded paycheck for that appointment and goes straight to the dermatologist.
but aren't there a shortage of
61.
dermatologists? I mean, there's not a lot, so I mean,
Yeah.
you can't refer too many, right?
Right, exactly. So it would be in a very small percentage of cases, and there's 61 dermatologists in all of New Zealand,
Okay, there you go.
16 operating in the public sphere, and those who are operating in the public health provider sphere are only focusing on treatment, so they don't do any consultation. It's general practitioners who do the consultation, then send you to a dermatologist, one of those 16 public ones, unless you're going to a private one, for that treatment. So what we're doing is in a very small percentage of cases where the algorithm is basically certain beyond a doubt that that is a malignant spot that needs treatment. In those cases, we would want a direct referral to a dermatologist in order to save as much money as possible and get that patient the treatment that they need.
Sorry, so just on that, so the person has downloaded the app, they've taken a photo, and they've paid the $10 to get an expert review, and then once the expert review comes back and says, you know, this is serious, it goes straight to a dermatologist.
Only in a very small percentage of cases. So it depends on the severity of it. There's a different level of risk profiles. There's low risk, medium risk, high risk. and it's in two different ways, in family risk and risk related to that very specific skin lesion. So in probably 0.5% of cases where high risk is identified, we would want direct access to dermatologists, bypassing the general physician, in order to get that patient the immediate access to care that they clearly need.
So can I just clarify two things? So by referral, do you mean the referral of that particular image they've taken that is high risk, or referral of the patient to go see the dermatologist?
Referral of the patient to see the dermatologist.
Okay. And you envision that being a successful process given that there is a shortage of dermatologists because they're already completely overloaded, have no space in their books for 3 months. How are you going to then deal with this influx of, 100 high-risk patients coming in all at one time, skipping the GP process?
Well, I think the biggest challenge we see here is that even when we're sending these high-risk users to the general practitioner, they're only referring to the dermatologist. So really, whether it's a matter of getting on a waiting list quicker, whatever we can possibly do, considering the restricted resources, we believe that this process will only make the opportunity to detect early enough easier, and also potentially really help the user most, considering their circumstances as a high-risk user.
The other one was when you team up with the New Zealand Cancer Society, what are you doing? Because they're an NGO, so are you donating money to them? Are you donating the app to them? How are they going to join up with you to promote to the rural community?
Yes. So I think our vision for that was, as a co-sponsor with that NGO, we'd be able to bring our application and maybe even our resources to train some of these NGO, so that when they go to these rural areas and communities, or even urban communities, and they put on these free clinics for the underserved that don't necessarily have the same preventative care offered to them, that we would be able to be the first and most accurate preventative force for these individuals and help them get healthier quicker.
So you're going to donate some of the apps to the Cancer Society?
Mm-hmm.
And in our financials, we have a fairly significant marketing budget, and a part of that marketing budget would be through these NGOs. So
You talked about delaying the entry to the US. Obviously, startups like this have limited resources, but then how do you then deal with the fact that startups like this also are in a very competitive sphere where there's a lot of companies working on this type of thing? Do you think we need to be the first mover, or do you think it's worth waiting until there's enough resources to then go into the market?
I'd be happy to answer that. If you could flip to the appendix slide on that. So we identified quite a number of barriers to entry in the U.S. market, beginning with the uncertain political atmosphere currently, pending approval of the FDA of this product in the market. We identified some other barriers to entry in terms of adoption from individual users, a lack of trust of this type of product, as well as a general apathy, given that there is an ozone layer in the United States and there isn't one here. So therefore, we identified that there are some pretty significant opportunities in the United States, especially to partner with the multitude of insurance companies that would love this product to prevent these types of cases in the people that they serve, as well as large corporations who are continually spending more and more money to prevent types of diseases that their insurance would then have to cover. But we saw that given you have 12 employees and definitely time constraints and other lack of resources, that it would be good to delay it for a certain amount of time until you can enter the market and seek initial mover advantage and full market penetration all at once.
You also talked about app development in your implementation timeline. What do you mean by app development?
I can also take that one. So we recommended a few different app development features, the first of which is creating family profiles, so enabling a mother, for example, to not only manage the photos and the accounts of herself, but also her children, her husband, anyone else very close to her in her life, potentially her parents, as well as including some of those push notifications, the email user profiles that we mentioned in terms of encouraging retention and long-term engagement over the life cycle of the user.
So those kind of developments take quite a substantial amount of resources in terms of expense, especially for developers to produce. Do you think that's worthwhile spending there, overspending on something else?
Absolutely. So we identified the young to middle-aged woman as the most powerful influencer and the one that can get the most impact for all of the different people that she's connected to. And so we saw that as the most powerful way to encourage users of the platform and subscribers and really getting the most impact out of the product itself instead of to really achieve that goal of preventing skin cancer instead of just getting a large-scale user base.
Thank you very much.
Thanks.
Thank you.